Okay, so I just finished watching, I guess, episode 1, not counting the Christmas special, of season 2 of the 15th Doctor, played by Shuri Gatwa. And I have some opinions I want to share. I'm not going to get into any trivia or any Easter eggs. I'll let other YouTubers do that. I just want to share how I felt. Now, knowing Russell T Davies and having seen his work with the Doctor before, you're always looking for the twist or something that's going to carry on throughout the season. It's kind of like watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie where you just get used to him having a twist, and then it sometimes spoils the experience of watching the film because you guess the twist early. Having said that, the last season with Shuri Gatwa had a lot of red herrings because I think Russell T Davies knew that people would go into it looking for something, and he set things up so that they had no payoff, and that was surprising in some ways, unsatisfying in other ways, refreshing in some ways. So, season 1 with Shuri Gatwa was a bit of a mixed bag, and I think overall a lot of the season was not well received. Now we have episode 1 of season 2, so I have a few notes here, and these are my takeaways. So, it starts off very mysteriously. We see a woman on a bench getting a gift from her boyfriend, and he is kind of condescending, and he, I think, has a negative attitude about her in some ways. Now, things I took away from their conversation. At the start, with the girls aren't good at maths, and Belinda, the woman, not liking the word miss. I thought there might be some message about gender roles throughout the episode, so I was on my lookout for that. Then it turns out she is a nurse in a hospital, so that reminded me of Martha from an earlier incarnation of the Doctor, the David Tennant's second companion after Rose. Then she gets whisked away to another planet, which was gifted to her by this boyfriend 17 years prior, and they broke up around the same time, although she establishes it as 16 years since they've had contact. Then later on this new planet, there's an AI generator. They called it an AI generator. So I thought there might be some commentary about the dangers and limits of AI and how AI is bad at actual creativity, commenting on the situation these days with AI threatening certain types of artists or certain types of creators. So I was expecting something to play out with that. The Doctor was without his TARDIS, and he didn't really use his sonic screwdriver very much during the episode, so I wasn't sure if he retained that once he arrived on this new planet. So that was very nice to see the Doctor helpless and without his TARDIS and not relying on his normal tricks and technology. The Doctor lost someone he loved, Sasha 55. And whether that love was romantic or platonic, of course, he cried, and Shuri Gatwa's Doctor always cries. So we established there's 6 months where he's on the planet interacting with these inhabitants of the planet. So what was their relationship? There's something that's unspoken here. He's lost people before. He's been separated from people before in this incarnation. So that was interesting. I wonder what their relationship actually was. And he promised to take her to see the stars once this was all solved. So maybe he's overconfident. Maybe he's too optimistic. So that was very interesting. But he lost her. So it kind of shows that he can't do everything he promises and can't achieve everything he wants to. So that was nice. But establishing again that this Doctor is very sympathetic, very empathetic, very compassionate. There was a scene with an X-ray blanket, which was kind of cool, where he emphasized that he has 2 hearts, so he can establish himself as an alien. And maybe that's the first time they've really established that Gallifreyans have 2 hearts in this incarnation of the Doctor, for the newer viewers who might have found the Doctor through Disney+. But metaphorically, maybe this is a way to kind of wink at how emotional this Doctor is. He literally has 2 hearts, so he feels more than other people. I don't know if that was intended. But he went from being really traumatized and sad and crying at the loss of Sasha 55 to joking and buoyant and jubilant and exuberant not that long after. So I'm not really sure how impacted he was by her death, in the long term, because the robots vaporize, they disintegrate a lot of people, very Dalek-like. And did I say Dalek instead of Dalek? Let me just go back and say Dalek-like. I won't edit that, though. But that was... He lost all of the rebels that he was supporting. But at the end, he's dancing and singing and jumping and doing high kicks, which was impressive. But tonally, I'm torn. What was lost? Was this a victory? How many people died due to the situation on this planet? And I kind of think it was rushed. It felt like it was really rushed. So at the beginning, set up the possible commentary about gender roles, the possible commentary about the dangers of AI. They set up a lot of mysteries, like the robots not hearing every ninth word, and what would that mean? And then we learned that the AI generator is actually her boyfriend for some reason, as an incel, creating this world where he wants to force her to marry him. But he also expresses, maybe subconsciously, his inner feelings every ninth word. So a lot of things didn't have payoffs that I would have expected. The gender roles topic. She rejected the word miss later on, and she rejected marrying him. But I didn't really get the feeling that that was a comment on traditional gender roles. The message about AI being dangerous. Well, it's not AI, it's Al. It's just a misinterpretation of his name. AL generator, not AI generator. So that had no payoff. And the ninth word didn't really have a payoff. That could have been a much more interesting mystery, like revealing that every ninth word the robots said or every ninth word that the AI generator said had a hidden meaning. But a lot of things just didn't have payoffs. And other things of note in the episode, Mrs. Flood, once again, is the neighbor of the doctor's companion, and she does a little fourth wall break and winks at the camera and says, "You ain't seen me," before rushing back into the house. So they're maintaining the mystery about Mrs. Flood. What else do I have in my notes? The doctor kind of helps Belinda solve things at the end, but somehow sees all of her life from her birth to her death and knows that they have this long history together and that they're kind of destined to be together. And that reminded me of Clara. So a lot of this episode reminded me of other companions and other episodes in various series of the Doctor. And also the artwork, the design of the rockets and things was very colorful, kind of nostalgic, like 1940s and 50s science fiction cover art from novels. The AI voice was similar to the AI voice in the film Colossus, the Forbin Project. Really good and disturbing movie. If you have a chance to see it, check it out. With the intonation dropping at the end of every sentence. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it seems too similar to not be intentional. But all in all, I think there were a lot of clever ideas that didn't really go anywhere. So I felt disappointed in some ways at the end. I was expecting these things to have payoffs, and they didn't. Now, with Russell T Davies, maybe they pay off later on in the season, but last season, a lot of things didn't pay off later on. So, I'm going to keep watching. I like Doctor Who, and I don't mind this incarnation. I don't mind Ncuti Gatwa at all. So hopefully they learn things from the previous season and do a better job this time. But other things I made notes of. All in all, it was a light episode that set up the new companion, and trying to return her to her place in time, because this new companion, Belinda, is not impressed. She's judging the Doctor. She's angry that he invaded her privacy, for example, by scanning her DNA without permission, and she doesn't want to be a companion at all or travel with him. And she sees him a bit as a flim-flam artist, like a con man, like he promises all the girls he's going to take them on adventures through time and space. Wink, wink. And the Doctor just kind of laughs this weird little, not predatory, but flirtatious kind of behavior at her. But then he apologizes when he sees that she's not responding to it very well. So it was interesting to see her kind of rejection of him as a person and as the doctor. Now, she also said, you're the doctor, so I'm the nurse. And my mom was a nurse. My sister's a nurse. I know nurses work hard, so it was nice to see nurses getting recognized for how capable they are. So the doctor traveling with the nurse, I think that's a first. But all in all, it introduced a new companion very well. I like her. I want to see how their dynamic plays out. He tried to return her to the moment that he took her, but he was bouncing off of the return date. And that reminded me of what happened to Amy and Rory and how their death became a fixed point that the Doctor could not enter or change. And then at the very end of the episode, we saw floating in space what looked like the remnants of a destroyed Earth. So this episode, while itself kind of disappointing and didn't pay off what it was setting up, I think it did set up this season very well and establish some mysteries. And the Doctor's mission is to get her home. But he can't get her home the easy way. They have to go the long way. So I think they've set up a pretty good arc for this season. And I wonder how it's all going to pay off, how it's all going to play out. And if anything they hinted at in this episode will mean anything later on. Because Russell T Davies, you just don't know. But I think it's worth a watch. Just go into it understanding this itself is not really a complete story, and the story itself is a bit unsatisfying, but it sets up the new companion very well, and I think it opens the new season pretty well. Much better than Space Babies. Anyway, that's my quick take on the first real episode of the new season of Doctor Who. Thanks for watching. See you next time.